This is a colored picture from a postcard a few years later showing how things have grown up, but you can definitely see the pastoral nature of the park. The park had 3 picnic grounds. It seated up to 25,000 people. Remember that the main draw was to bring groups out to the park, and so this was the grounds right behind the second lake. That is the second lake looking back into the grounds. There was boating on the lake. There would eventually be an electric launch that would be added for those that didn't want to row, where you could just hop in the boat and they'd motor you about. The casino was sort of the centerpiece. There was a great 19-room mansion on this knoll that they had set out to originally rehabilitate, and when they realized it would be cost prohibitive to do that, they demolished it and built the casino. Just a word, Horace Trumbauer, the famous architect that did all these great houses in the area, he started, one of his early jobs was doing a lot of work for the builders Wendell and Smith. They were responsible for doing the development of Wayne out on the main line, with a few other developments out there as all these suburban communities are being developed by developers. Wendell and Smith also had the contract to build Willow Grove Park, and Russell Smith designed all the buildings. All the buildings were done in a pale yellow with a white trim. So if you can sort of add color when the postcards don't. The casino sat up to 500 people for dining. This was the fine dining space at the park. They had a staff of 43 waiters on weekends, and you can see the view down to the lake. Here's a menu. I guess I should have done the inside so you could see the prices, but that would have only depressed you. You can see the casino on your right and the fountain in the center. The electric fountain, when Caleb Fox was out in the Columbian Exposition, he had seen the fountains out there, and so when he came round to having his hand in the development of Willow Grove Park, he specified a fountain. Frederick W. Darlington was the man who designed it. He had a company called the Electric Fountain Company of America based in Philadelphia. His earliest fountain that he did was in 1893 out in Pittsburgh, and he did fountains, electric fountains all over the country, and one of his last fountains is going to be the redoing of this as the Sousa Memorial Fountain in the 30s. This is a picture of the fountain at night. The electric fountain cost $100,000 to build, and it was the first fully electrified fountain in America. It was also had a level of control between the fountain and the lights. It was lit at night. We'll see some colorized postcards, but that probably doesn't, again, do justice to what the thing looked like. It was quite a thing. It had 867 jets. It was not done when the park opened. They inaugurated the fountain on Independence Day, 1896. The fountain was controlled via a fountain house, and that's the fountain house. Now, some of you might think that that's the logo to the mall. Some of you might think that that was the band shell. Alas, that was just the fountain house back in the early days. And there was a tunnel that went underground to the fountain so that they could operate it. One of the first rides at the park was Shoot the Chutes, where you basically, it was a flume ride down the ramp into the water. You can, one thing that's sort of fun is the trolley going along Easton Road this side in the park doing its perimeter circuit. This is a view from the top, the Shoot the Chutes, a couple years after they built the second carousel building, but it sort of gives you a view of the grounds. The Biograph Theater is sort of an interesting thing. In April of 1896, Edison premiered the Vitascope, which was the first machine that projected moving pictures. When the park opened, it touted the first in the world built for movies movie theater. And so if you ever want a great first for Willow Grove, The first movie theater was the Biograph Theater at Willow Grove Park. The next two pictures are very early shots. I've seen no others of the first carousel on the park. The first carousel was built by the E. Joy Morris Carousel Company in Germantown. The carousel itself would be replaced in 1905, and this company would get sold out to the Philadelphia Toboggan Company, which is a important name because they will, on concession basis or otherwise, install or manage a lot of the rides in the park. This is the outside, very heavy Victorian shingling here, this sort of Victorian shingle style thing with these, again, double walls inside. So I'm sure on a summer day they really love to have the windows open. This is the only interior picture that we have showing the rides. Carousel carving was a high art form among the German immigrants in Germantown. And so the Morris Company, the Denzel carousel folks, and a bunch of others will all be coming out of Germantown in that community doing the carving for these animals. Classical music played. They were all painted. And so you can imagine for somebody who's sort of living in a row house in Philadelphia, coming out and riding on the carousel must have been quite a thrill. The Nickel Scenic, which everybody's ah-haing, so you know about it. It was the first coaster ride in the park. It cost a nickel. Throughout the history of the park, they kept it at a nickel and called it the Nickel Scenic. And it was, when it went down, the longest lived ride at the park. And that sort of, you went up and then you went out through the woods and then came back down. When the park opened in 1896, there was a bicycle craze going on. And it's sort of interesting that the park mirrors all the different crazes. I mean, when we get into the 30s, there'll be a dancing craze. In the 1890s, it was a bicycle craze. The second year, they expanded the track, the seating. There was a world record held here, and that's the park. The band shell. An early photo of the band shell. It was Frederick Innes who would perform the concerts for the first year, had his hand in designing of it. They played 2 concerts a day. Frederick Innes was the band leader. Here's a program from the first year. Innes played the entire first year. Caleb Fox, who was on the People's Traction Company, wanted an orchestra. So they brought in Walter Damrosch and his New York Symphony. They played the entire second year. Here's a concert program. The other thing is that there was no radio. There was primitive recording. And so really, this is the first time people really experience live music, other than maybe like a hurly-gurly grinder or something, hurdy-gurdy grinder or something like that. I mean, people did not go to the orchestra. You just didn't pluck $5 down and sit in the cheap seats. They said that the music at the park was one of the causes for the Philadelphia Orchestra to be founded in 1901. So the park really made an impact. It was considered the culminating achievement of the era of refinement that the park operators wanted to achieve. You can see that the music is mostly classical or light classical. 2 concerts a day. You sat outside. I think you can, there's an awning here that they retracted in the summer. They had a band come in for the year of 98, and in the year of 1899, they split between band and orchestra, and then within a couple of years, they would be into 4 to 6 groups every year performing at the park for sort of, 2 to 6 week runs. Music composed at the park. Innes composed a piece in 1896. It was followed by many others, including this one by Sorrentino. One of the more famous ones, I guess, would be Victor Herbert's Whispering Willows. 1900, they added a shell because, as we all know, in Philadelphia summers, it rains in the summer, especially in the afternoon. So they built this shell. this pavilion that held 4,000. Here's a nighttime view. This is under the shell, sort of to give you a sense of what it looked like through a photograph. There's the 4,000 people jammed underneath. John Philip Sousa, probably the most famous. He started at the park in 1901 and performed every year except for the year he was on world tour until the concerts ended in 1926. By far the most popular. Here's the crowd standing outside the packed pavilion to hear his concert in 1905. John Philip Sousa was also the highest paid, $7,000 for the week. You have to realize that he was responsible for paying everybody in his band. So he got one check, and then he had to pay everybody who was on stage. Victor Herbert was the second highest paid at either $5,000 or $6,000, and most of the other groups were somewhere between $3,000 and $4,000 a week. This is a picture of the bucolic Willow Grove Park in 1902. This, between the Privy Hedge, is Moreland Road, and you're looking south. Here's the trolley going around the park. The mill was built in 1903 as a coaster ride. Starting after 1902, they started to add more coaster rides, as we'll see. They added a second carousel ride also in 1902. This was from the Denzel Company. That's an inside picture of it at night.